Kids, welcome. It's Professor Thomas here with a quick overview of how to get started for writing your Common App essay. First thing you want to do is you want to grab a notebook, a pen, paper. You could do it on a tablet or you could do it on your laptop. Alright? First exercise, what we're going to do is we're just going to generate some ideas about what and who is going to happen with our essay. So the what is we're going to write an essay that's going to impress people that are going to read it, and they're going to say, hey, we want that kid to come to our school. It all starts with making it interesting so the person actually reads the essay. I worked with Dr. Gloria Wood for 3 years at the University of Minnesota. She was on the admissions committee, and what she basically would do, she'd start reading the first couple of lines and then get a flavor, and then she'd start skimming and then maybe read towards the bottom. Unless she was impressed with the first part that made her want to read further. Alright, we call this a zinger in Junior Genius. We want to hook these people into reading a little bit further. Also, kind of keep in mind that they've got a lot of essays that they read, so they might not read every single word. First thing you want to do is acknowledge the fact that who is going to be reading your essay. Chances are it's going to be a professor or somebody in the academic realm. So what you want to do is put yourself in the position of being a professor. What would you like for your students to have as the best qualities? Think, what makes an awesome student? Think about being the other end of the table. You are now a professor, so what are you looking for in an awesome student? Alright, we're going to go ahead on the left piece of paper. We're just going to identify a few words. I'm just going to start with 3. If I'm a professor, these are the characteristics, the qualities that I want my students to have. I want my students to be hardworking. I want my students to be dedicated. And I want my students to put things in a relative importance value on what they're doing. They're coming to class. Make sure that they recognize that the priorities are in the correct region. So looking for good priorities. Alright, once we generate our 3 words, what we're going to do over to the side is now let's just go ahead kind of in between. You can do this. I just do A, and then I would do B, and then if you want you can do C down over here. Alright, what we want to do is we want to think of a story that's interesting that is going to illustrate these words. Alright, for example, a professor thinks that they are smart, so you never want to tell a professor anything. You always want to allude to it, because when you allude to something, it just has more powerful impact. Alright, so think of 3 stories that potentially you could illustrate these concepts without actually saying, hey, I'm a hard-working kid. Alright, let me give you an example. My first story over here was a snowstorm when I was going to the University of Minnesota, and I'm just going to call this The Hill. So basically what I did, I woke up one morning and there's about 3 feet of snow in the street. The streets weren't plowed, so obviously there were no cars. There was wind whistling. I had like these big Sorel boots, a snowmobile suit, and about a 40-pound backpack with a lunch in it. And I basically told the story of me just walking up the hill from my apartment all the way up the hill to school, arriving at school and sitting down in the front seat. Alright, so that's how I'm going to start my story off. Alright, step number 2, just simply grab your cell phone, open it up, and you're going to go to your email. We're going to send ourselves an email, but what we're going to do is we're going to use the Google Voice to Text. If you just simply click the record button, you can go ahead and just talk into your cell phone, and it will go into your email and it will just start typing stuff out for you. We're just free-flowing right now, so basically pull your cell phone out, we're going to send an email. Alright, let's go ahead and start. So my story is about the hill, and I'm looking for dedication, hardworking, and so forth in my essay. Alright, so I just start talking to my phone. One cold morning, I looked out the window as I heard the wind whistling. I saw, to my surprise, there was 3 feet of snow covering the streets. Not a car was in sight. No headlights, no sound. The wind whistled. I got up, had breakfast. I put on my snowmobile suit, my 10-pound Sorel boots, and my 40-pound backpack. Started my adventure up the hill 1 mile to school. As I walked through the snow, I felt like I was in the North Pole. Not anybody was out. You couldn't hear anything except wind whistling through the trees. I arrived at school, opened up the door, walked into the building, and walked down the desolate hallway. There was no one in the building. As I found my lecture hall, I came in the back. I took off my Sorel boots. I took off my snowmobile suit. I shook the snow off of my head just like a puppy coming out of a wet, rainy day into the porch. I walked in spare stockings up to the front of the row. I sat in the front seat, and Mrs. Johnson, the professor, said, "Good morning, Thomas." Boom. End of story. You see, it's very interesting. It's somewhat detailed. You can create some visual images, and it never says anything about, "and I learned this," and "I am this kind of person." It just basically shows, hey, this kid really wants to go to school and is willing to persevere through the weather and walk to school while others were not willing to do that. Obviously, the professor is the professor, and the professor has to show up for class. So the professor is going to see, hey, this is a good kid. I know the kid by name because they're sitting in the front row and they're the only one in the classroom. There you have it. Just simply dictate into your phone. Now, once you have your story, in Common App, your Common App essay should be somewhere around 500 to 650 words, and make it into small, easy, readable paragraphs. So now I send that email to myself from my phone, and I go into my laptop, my computer, or my tablet, and I pull up my email. Now I will copy and paste the email into whatever word processor that you have. Some kids use Google Docs, some kids use Microsoft Cloud, other kids may use old school Microsoft Word. Alright? Copy and paste what you just dictated into your email onto your word processor paper. Then what we're going to do is simply go in and just double space for paragraphs. Set it up so it's easy, readable paragraphs. It's much nicer to look at, and your professors won't be afraid, oh, look at all that dense writing. Just make it into nice short paragraphs. My first paragraph would be me waking up and having breakfast. Paragraph number 2 would be opening the creaky door and stepping out into the street, walking through maybe the next paragraph where I'm talking about the visual images of what I see. There's not a soul out, snow in front of me, there's snow on the trees, you don't hear any sounds, the road is unplowed, white, 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 that's all I see. Then the next paragraph would be me going and actually opening the door and getting into the building, walking into the room, taking off my snowmobile suit and my boots. And then the next paragraph may be me walking in my stockings to the front row, and then the professor saying, "Good morning, Thomas," and me calling me out by name. Make it easy for the professors to read. Alright, we're going to go ahead and get started with this. It should be very, very, very easy. For right now, don't worry so much about how many words you have. What we want to do is get the story down. Alright, from when you probably dictate, usually kids are right around, I don't know, 1,000 to 1,200 words or something like that. Just dictate it and then separate it into paragraphs. Then go back and reread it. You can make things a little bit more precise. You can take out stuff that you don't want to illustrate. Maybe you don't want to talk about the squirrel in the tree. Maybe opening the front door of the building is not something that's really important. You can add, you can delete, you can figure it out, but let's get this down. Once you do that, separate it into paragraphs. Go through and then kind of make things a little bit tighter as you read and reread. Once you get this done, why don't you go ahead and just text the professor and you shoot it off to my email. I'll give you my email address. Everybody, thanks so much for watching this short little video tutorial. Let's get going for the Common App essay. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye for now.